It seems like it was just a couple of weeks ago that we covered the flower massacre that happened in Gaza, where there was obviously trucks that came through with food, humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people. And the moment they started to approach those trucks, they were fired upon, right? Now, of course, we know the IDF told a different story. The story that they told said that they were shooting up in the air, actually, not at the people. Well, believe it or not, CNN actually conducted their own investigation. I know, is wild. But this is the second time I've seen them conduct their own investigation in reference to the assault on Gaza. And what they have found is that, surprise, surprise, it appears that the IDF lied about the flower massacre. Why are we not surprised? Let's get into this clip here from CNN. Again, it says CNN investigation, new video, eyewitness testimony contradicts Israel's explanation of 100 plus who died in Gaza and the truck incident. Let's start here. This is the Aaron Burnett out front show.
It was the IDF that was then responsible for safely delivering these vital supplies. But we found they opened fire on unarmed, starving Palestinians at close range as the aid arrived. Their explanation for the tragedy using this drone video was a stampede that caused soldiers to fire warning shots in the air. They later admitted to firing some shots directly at so-called suspects who approached them. But the IDF footage is incomplete. It cuts between crowds surrounding the trucks and bodies lying on the ground.
That's right. So we've seen incomplete footage from the IDF before. I think one of the times we saw that was when they were actually following IDF soldiers through Al-Shifa Hospital. Remember that? And they were saying, look at what we found in this hospital. Look at these weapons, da-da-da. And it's interesting, like the way that it was done, it looked like someone just placed those things there. Like it just looked like it was scripted, right? And it also looked like it was edited, which it appears those things were admitted later on. There were lies that were told about a calendar that was on the wall. Remember that one that Mehdi Hassan caught and he actually called out, hence why he's no longer at MSNBC. But this is not the first time that the IDF has been known to alter footage to fit their narrative.
Even this reveals they were firing in a densely packed area, likely to cause severe bloodshed. CNN requested the full footage from the IDF, but it was denied. Jihad Abu Watfa was amongst the starving Palestinians and started filming as the...
We're going to take this part off here because I can't show that part. Sorry, guys. We'll just go a little bit forward right here when he says that we faced danger. Yeah, we'll start it right about there. There we go.
من أجل الحصول على أي لقمة عيش لعائلاتنا.
Videos from Jihad and another key
and we'll have to come out of here too. Sorry, guys. I wish they didn't do them all this way, but we'll start with the timeline here. So then we get to the timeline of the events that took place that night.
IDF published this timeline saying the trucks arrived at the checkpoint at 4 a.m. They then crossed at 4:29, and only after that did the IDF fire shots at the crowd.
We'll move that here. Okay, because he was actually there that night. Sorry about that, guys. There you go.
جدا لا يوصف من خوف واستباك وخايف لا سمح الله ترجع نادلك شهيد.
As day broke, the number of dead and injured that emerged was staggering. Interviews with survivors at hospitals afterwards found some people had been shot in the upper body.
Yeah, so he was another one that was wounded. We're going to speed up here. And we're going to talk to this guy about the food delivery.
Via WhatsApp.
I woke up to some photos with cardboard boxes of our logo, my welfare trust, with bloodstains on them. And it came as a shock. This is the first time in 20 years where I've actually seen blood being mixed with aid.
In all, at least 118 died that day. With the UN struggling to access northern Gaza, the IDF are responsible for ensuring aid arrives safely. Despite this, the UN has documented 24 attacks on Palestinians awaiting aid in the last 3 months alone.
And then we want to go to this last part here. Yeah, when they wrap up here. And then I want to show you the article because it goes a little bit deeper.
Well, Erin, the IDF have not yet responded to CNN's questions on these findings. We've also asked for that full unedited drone footage, but those requests have been denied. And really, this investigation is calling into question the IDF's ability to safely distribute aid when it's clearly most desperately needed.
So you hear that? So this is the second time they've conducted an investigation, their own investigation, and they have found that the IDF has not been honest. Now, I want to give a little bit more detail here in the article. So it goes on to say here, dying for a bag of flour, videos and eyewitness accounts cast doubt on Israel's timeline of deadly Gaza aid delivery. Let's go down to this part here. So this is Jihad. This was the guy who was on the video. It says the 27-year-old surrounded by hundreds of other Palestinians who had gathered for aid delivery on February 29th when Israeli soldiers accompanying the humanitarian convoy opened fire. More than 100 people were killed and 700 injured, according to Gaza's health ministry. The tragedy, which has become known among Palestinians as the Flower Massacre, is one of the single deadliest mass casualty events to take place in Gaza since Israel launched its assault on the Gaza Strip following October 7th. Look at this. Notice how they're changing their vocabulary. Notice they're now saying Israel launched its assault. Everyone pay attention to that, because that's not what they were referring to before. They weren't calling it that. Again, that comes from pressure from the masses, people outside. It says CNN collected testimonies and videos of 22 eyewitnesses, many of whom had traveled from other cities across Gaza in hopes of finding something for their families to eat. When the convoy passed through an Israeli checkpoint on Al-Rashid Street, the main north-south route designated by the Israeli military for humanitarian aid, survivors recalled Israeli troops opening fire on crowds as they tried desperately to reach the food aid. So that is recapping what happened there. But now we face another situation where, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but now a UNICEF convoy has also been hit by gunfire waiting to enter northern Gaza. So this is after the Flower Massacre. This actually happened, I believe, yesterday. Let's go ahead and bring this in. You see what I mean about not holding Israel accountable? Notice how they can just change the footage to make it fit their narrative, and there's no accountability. No one's holding Israel accountable. And now you see more casualties are happening, this time to more humanitarian workers.
UNICEF, the UN agency that helps children, says one of its vehicles came under fire on Wednesday while waiting to enter northern Gaza. Thankfully, no one was injured. Here's UNICEF's Tess Ingram, who joins us in just a moment and was part of that convoy.
Active shooting broke out in the area. Our car was hit by a few bullets. We've just got back and there's some pretty clear bullet hits here and another one here along the window and a few others.
This came 10 days after 7 aid workers with World Central Kitchen were killed in what Israeli officials call a mistakenly targeted military strike. Aid agencies are reporting dire needs in Gaza, and yesterday on Capitol Hill, Samantha Power, America's top humanitarian official, said yes when asked if famine was already occurring in Gaza. UNICEF's Tess Ingram joins me now with more. Tess, it's good to have you. Can you walk us through what exactly happened? As I understand it, you were on a coordinated aid mission yesterday in northern Gaza. What happened next?
So, as you say, it was a coordinated mission. We'd planned in advance. We have UNRWA and UNICEF colleagues together trying to bring nutrition supplies, medical supplies, and 10,000 litres of fuel for water points in the north of Gaza. We travel north. We're heading towards the Wadi Gaza checkpoint when we're instructed to hold at a waiting area, which is just south of the checkpoint. And this is a designated area where UN convoys often have to wait. While we're there, gunfire breaks out in the vicinity. It seemed to be coming from the direction of the checkpoint from the north, and it seemed to be aimed at civilians who were in the area, who then turned and ran away from the checkpoint.
So did you guys hear what she said? This is really important. So now you have someone with UNICEF saying that they were aiming at the civilians, and the direction it was coming from was the checkpoint. So here you go again. This is another eyewitness account that is saying they were aiming at civilians. I don't know how many more eyewitnesses they need to come forward for these other countries. Let's say the United States doesn't bend the knee, okay? But all these other countries that are Western allies, I don't know how many more witnesses that they need for the other countries to pull back and say, no, enough is enough.
We're just to the west of them. We were 3 cars and 2 trucks. And one of our cars, the car that I was in, was hit by 3 bullets, 2 on my door, 1 on the window and 1 on the door, and 1 on the hood of the car. So this is obviously an incident that should not be happening on a coordinated mission in a designated area where we have been instructed to wait, let alone at all, Jim.
So she followed instructions, and it was a designated area. So once again, this proves that they are trying to prevent the food and the aid from getting in.
I wonder, in those circumstances, you coordinate in advance, so you're communicating with the IDF. They know where you're going, why you're going there. You stay in the designated areas. In the midst of this gunfire, did you have any ability to call the IDF and say, hey, wait a second, we're caught in the middle of this?
The lead convoy was an UNRWA vehicle, and our security colleagues at the front there, I know that they were in contact with Israel during this incident or in the wake of it. I'm not sure if they were able to do it immediately during the fire because it was so sudden and quite rapid.
Also, I didn't like the way he framed that question. You should change your framing. What do you mean? Did she try to call the IDF and let them know that this is the UNICEF truck? The point that needs to be made is that they shouldn't have been targeting at civilians in a designated area in the first place. That's the point that needs to be made. Why are you asking her if she tried to call or contact them? This isn't on her. This isn't on the civilians that were in that area. It was designated for aid. And they are still firing upon people that are in spots that are designated for aid. So don't put this back on the person that was attacked. Put the accountability on the attacker.
Has the IDF reached out, provided any explanation as to what happened here, or responded to your questions?
No, UNICEF and other parties in the UN have reached out to the relevant Israeli authorities, but we're yet to receive a response. And the response that we're really seeking, Jim, is that this won't happen again. Just 7-8 days after the World Central Kitchen incident, to have something like this happen when the dialogue has been so much about preventing incidents like this, especially on coordinated missions, that's what we're after.
We just talked about this. We just talked about what happened with the World Central Kitchen. We're not even a month later.
Spoke to you last week, just after that deadly strike on the World Central Kitchen convoy. I asked you if you trusted then the IDF's pronouncements that it would keep aid convoys safe. You told me then you didn't, and I wonder how you feel now following this incident.
Look, I think that it's clear that the system that is meant to protect humanitarian aid workers in the Gaza Strip is very broken. And what we need is that system to be repaired with urgency so that more incidents like this don't keep happening, not just to us, but to civilians as well.
Have there been any changes in the last week? Because I spoke with senior IDF officials as well in the wake of the World Central Kitchen attack. They said the changes were coming, right? They acknowledged responsibility. They said changes were coming. There's some discussion of putting this reflective tape on the vehicles of aid convoys so it could be easily spotted from the air. Have you seen any measures like that?
What kind of question would you ask someone who was just shot at? Obviously, if they were shooting at her, obviously there's no change. like this woman is literally, someone said in the chat, this woman is lucky to be alive. Aye.
I can't speak for the whole UN or humanitarian community, but at UNICEF, no, we haven't seen a difference. We don't have that tape on our vehicles. We had this mission that was coordinated, and we still ran into this dangerous incident and extended delays that ultimately prevented us from completing the mission and taking these important life-saving supplies to the children that need them. So no, we haven't seen change yet, and it's really needed urgently to make sure that hopefully as more trucks come in, as has been promised, that we're able to distribute that, because these two things really go hand in hand, the delivery and the distribution.
No question. So before we go, you mentioned that aid. What happens to that aid? Will it get delivered?
We're hoping so. Despite the incident, we're going to try again, hopefully this weekend. We're putting in another coordination request because it's just too important to give up. We've got treatment that we know can help the malnourished children in the north of Gaza, and we desperately want to get it up there.
Isn't that really sad what you just heard right there? Like, this woman was just shot at and she's going to have to try to do it again. So she's willing to risk her life to save those kids, to get them the nutrients that they need. And I just, it baffles me, because again, this is where people should be calling on the president of the United States to really do something here. But he's not willing to, because he's also bought and paid for by AIPAC. This is what happens when you pledge your allegiance to another state, another country. This is what happens when you pledge your allegiance to an organization like AIPAC, to the Israeli lobby. Like, this is crazy, and this is insane. I hope more people share this story. We're not even a month out from the World Central Kitchen attack on those humanitarian workers. We're not even a month away from that. And here's another humanitarian worker that was attacked. So yes, she is lucky to be alive. But the IDF has been lying. They continue to lie, and I think we all know how that goes. Let's go to some of the comments here. Urban Voice Media, Sabby, thank you for the AIPAC tracker info. We are about to get busy with this. You are welcome, fam. Thank you for the super chat, EMK. May the voices of peace rise so loudly that the war criminals cannot avoid their sins and accountability. Well said.